So we have a special guest, and I'll start that. I just want to say that I welcome my doctor and psychologist, Karen Schurgin, but I'm going to start with a couple polling questions first. And we have a new platform, which is kind of crazy, but let's see if this works. Okay. First question, how long has it been since your diagnosis? This gives Karen, Dr. Schurgin, that is. Can I call you Karen or Dr. Schurgin?
Call me Karen.
Okay, I'll call you Karen.
Everybody else can call me Dr. Schurgin, but you get to call me Karen.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna end the poll, share the results. And as usual, we have a variety of people here. So basically 20% of 2 and 3 years, 23% 1 to 2, and 23% under 1. And we have 13% at 3 to 4 years, and 6 to 7% equals 3%. 8 years or longer is 17%. And then I have one last question, and that is, do you have a mental health professional on your health team? And if you answer yes, you can also put down who do you get the help from? And the last one was kind of a joke, but there's people saying that they do have a family pet. So I'm gonna end the poll, share the results. Okay, so 56% of us don't have one. 35% of us do have one. The top answer was a therapist at 21%. Then we have the psychologist at 9%, a family pet at 9%, and a local cancer group. So those are basically my two questions that I have. And like I said with the ALK talk, Dr. Schurgin, I'll call her Karen. I tried to figure out how many times we actually met. Did you actually figure out the number since over the last 9 years or so?
Um,
You muted yourself.
I totally didn't. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 250, though. I think you're right.
Right. And you saw me through some of my stages of my cancer growth.
Through
So,
all of the stages.
right. So, I mean, I just celebrated my 10th year being positive. Year before that, I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I've had 11-year journey, and I'd call it a journey because there is ups and downs. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the presentation and share my screen here. Because we
So
have
as
two.
we go through this presentation, I'm going to tell you that Mark has informed me that my presentation is dense. I like to call it rich. It's rich with a lot of information, and I am hopeful that at some point, as you see something, that you might unmute and speak to some of the things that are more personal for you. Mark, how are we going to do this? Are
We'll do
you
a few chat questions. So if you have a chat question, you can just type one in, and Summer or myself or Dan will go through that. It
so
doesn't matter.
so to start off with? Let's start off with a check question of what feelings you feel through the holidays. What are your fears? Like fears, anxieties. As we go through holidays, I feel like there's more on that slide
Hmm.
than excitement, anxiousness, weariness, happiness, sadness, grief, because I think I also had some things on there, including feeling overwhelmed.
Maybe it's zoomed in too much. Hold on. Keep on talking. I'll figure it out.
So one of the things that I'd like to start off with is the fact that as we enter into the holidays, we all come in with expectations. I don't think it's possible to go through a holiday season without having either fears or expectations. I think we do that whether we have cancer or we don't have cancer. As we experience family members who have changing health issues, as we ourselves have changing health issues, we have certain expectations and thoughts and feelings that we are thinking about prior to the holiday season even starting. The holiday season seems to start for a lot of people around Halloween, because we know in October, how many people heard Christmas music in October, at the end of October? How many people saw people putting up decorations in November? We all saw it, right? How many people started thinking, oh no, now I have to get all of my stuff done? And what stuff do I have to get done? So we start thinking about gift giving, and we start thinking about food preparation, and we start thinking about family gatherings, and we start thinking about how are we going to make this special, not just for ourselves, but for everybody around us. Is that something that you've thought about? How am I going to be remembered? How am I going to be thought of? Am I going to be able to get it all together?
I'm going to start this again. I don't think it's going to fit into the screen, but you'll do your best.
I'm just doing my best.
Wing it.
I'm winging it.
All
Should
right.
I do it from my screen?
Yeah, sure. I'll share the
Let me
screen with you.
Let me see if I can do it on my screen. Hang on.
All right. I gave you permission, so.
Thank you. I'm going to move it to a slideshow, starting from the beginning, and then, okay, Mark, I don't know how to
Share screen,
share screen.
then click on it and then put share.
Okay.
I always have technical issues. So much you know how to do this Zoom. I was never good in AV, so sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm having some technical issues. Here we go. I am sharing the screen now. Share this screen.
There you go.
Okay, there we go, from the beginning.
Well, go to slideshow.
Slideshow from the beginning. There we go.
There we go.
How about that? Okay,
That's awesome.
I'm not going to be able to see anybody's responses, but you can see there's a whole lot more on here than just what I started with. So some of us are going to feel excitement. Some of us are going to feel anxious. Some of us are just going to feel weary. There's going to be grief, or maybe some anticipatory grief, knowing that something is going to be lost or not, or missed, or not done the way that we thought it should be. Some people are actually going to feel relief, maybe relief that you don't have to do anything this year, that somebody else is going to pick up the slack for you. But through it all, I have historically proposed, because I was here last time saying, engage in self-care, engage in self-care, engage in self-care. Please engage in self-care. Self-care is going to help you to feel better through the whole holiday season. And as in most cases, we start to engage in practicing self-care after we already feel stressed. We start to do things for ourselves once we feel overwhelmed, once we feel the feelings that maybe we weren't really hoping to feel, maybe some of the feelings that we were actually hoping not to feel. But if you can engage in self-care now, it could inspire you to create some new habits. It might empower you to do something differently, or put your best self forward, and maybe feel less stressed. Does anybody have any input, questions so far? Are we good so far?
We're good.
Okay. Okay. So I started to go through and put down some concerns or questions that individuals who have cancer have mentioned or asked over the course of the holiday season.
And I want to also interject that you've been dealing with cancer patients and care partners for 32 years.
That's
But you look very
that is-
good. So.
that's my truth. I've started when I was 12. So as you look over this list, are there any that resonate with you? Are there any that hit you? Are there any that I didn't put on here that maybe are true for you? Do you want to open it up? And
Well, I'll moderate this for a second. Since I'm involved with a lot of groups in this ALK-positive, I think the biggest thing that comes up is, will I be here next year? And they kind of like, you come outside of your body almost and look down at the celebration. You're like, wow, this is great, but will I be here next year? What will that look like?
what will it look like? And maybe what will my life look like as I enter into this next year?
True.
Also, I want to add too, I think a big thing is we want to enjoy, we want to make memories, we want to celebrate. We're trying to find that balance though of all the heavy stuff as well.
And Darcy just put in there, thinking that, is this my last year?
This is a year that I think every year I think we think that. I don't think, well, you and I, Mark, every year think that.
Is that morbid to think that, or is that realistic to think that, or?
I think it's realistic to think that. I think it's always realistic to think that. I've said this before. I always am looking at the year ahead with my mom, saying, I'm wondering if this is the last Thanksgiving with her. I'm wondering if this is the last birthday celebration with her. I'm wondering if this is the last holiday with her. I'm wondering how I'm going to get through this when that person isn't here. And as a caregiver, I know that these are anxieties that I feel. And I know that these are feelings that my mom feels as she goes through her illness.
And what advice would you give for people that feel that way, who don't want to tell their loved ones that they feel that way?
Well, let's start off with.
Oh, wow, I didn't know about this. Slide, go ahead.
You didn't know about this slide?
Let me look at your slide, sorry.
Well, just as a heads up, what we know is that any medical diagnosis can be challenging, but cancer is even more challenging because it combines cognitive, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and existential concerns. So it's not just that you're dealing with one thing. As cancer patients, you're dealing with a whole handful. And then if you received your cancer diagnosis, Mark, what was the percentage? It was like 23% had received it within the last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like closer to almost 50% of them. Well, you started with 0 to 1. Yeah, 23%.
Yeah, there was like almost 50%. It was in the last 2 years.
Right.
And if you've received it at any time during the holiday season, it's even more challenging and even more triggering. And I want to acknowledge that. I want to validate that. I want to recognize that because I think that that's a very important and significant.
So once you validate that, then as a therapist, what would you say to share that with others, or how would you?
So if you look in my tips, for coping with cancer during the holiday season, the very last one is express your feelings with the people in your life. Maybe you can't tell everyone, but maybe there is a person that you can share it with. Maybe it is a significant other. Maybe it is a specific family member. And if it's not any of those people, you posted the poll, do you have a therapist? Do you have a counselor? This is where having a counselor is critical. This is a counseling session is your safest place to talk about all of the things that you worry about that you think maybe are too heavy to share with your family members, that might be too scary, that might be too overwhelming. There are two things, I think I said this to you earlier. There's two things that I wish that every cancer patient had. One was an antidepressant upon diagnosis, and the other was the assignment of a therapist. I think that it's important to have those two things at your disposal anytime you need them. I think that mental health care should go hand in hand with cancer care.
And then Ellen Rugel just posted something that she shared with everyone in the chat, which is we have ALK support groups on Zoom, believe it or not. And thanks to Karen, she provides us with the art therapist.
Our
So Karen's provided
therapist, Vernie,
5 different
yes.
therapists so far.
Yeah,
And which is great because it's a peer-to-peer group typically. So we share our inner thoughts in these groups, and they stay in the group, and then we don't have to share
it's
them.
safe.
Yeah,
It's a safe
Good.
place. It
Right.
creates a very, very safe place. So some of the other things, just we were talking, Summer, you had mentioned wanting to create memories and the importance of creating memories.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think it might be important is that memories can happen because you change holiday traditions. Holiday traditions can be more valuable or more significant because they are reflective of where you are. Turning those traditions into special moments, focusing on what you can do rather than on what you can't do. Maybe what in even things like limiting the time, maybe declining some invitations or not attending every single thing so that you're spending the time that you have energy with the people that are the most important to you. So maybe you're picking and choosing which gatherings you're attending.
And what would your advice be when you have to go around the room telling everyone how you're feeling?
I always say that you can either say fine and walk away, or you can say, my response is always, do you want me to tell you the truth or do you want me to tell you a social nicety? Would you like the truth or a social nicety? Because my social nicety is, I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
And then we got another comment here that from Richard that sometimes he's angry that he's not the person who he was. This is a whole other topic, but
so I'm curious. Is Richard able to speak up?
if he wants to unmute, he can speak up.
Hey, Richard, would you speak up and talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's a real honest experience. And I think that is one of the things that makes this holiday season even more difficult.
Well, I don't know what else to say, except I'm really angry that I'm not the person that I was. I'm not the person that I was. I don't have the energy that I was. I have more infections than I used to have. I'm not the same person. And I'm really angry about it.
Are
And
you
I'll be
able,
with other people and I'll be, happy in every way that I'm supposed to be, but inside I'll be angry
are you
and
able
sad.
to, are you able to say that to anybody?
Tell it to everybody. No, only to my closest friends. Because I figure if you
They
tell
should
it to your
know.
I figure if you tell it to your closest friends, they'll know that you really feel close to them.
I actually think you're right. I think that it's really important to say, I'm angry. I'm angry and I'm sad and I'm worried and I really want to enjoy my time with you, but this is not the way I thought this was going to go down. This is not fair to me or anyone around me. And I need to make certain healthy choices, and you guys are my healthy choices. And I hope
And
that your
Richard's
friends,
part of Richard's part of our men's group, so men's group meets Thursday of each 9 o'clock Eastern time for those men who want to share Richard's anger.
I
So-
think that that's a fair, I think that that is an absolutely fair statement. And I think that it's a good thing to share anger and to have support in that.
Well, that's what I do.
I'm glad. I like that. Mark, I am not able to move my screen forward.
Oh.
Oh, there it is.
I got another question for you though.
Okay.
With an 8-year survivor, sometimes she gets overwhelmed when she thinks that this might be her last go around. And I'm summarizing it, but so I mean, we talk about that constantly, you and I, because I think going to my 10th year, and I got diagnosed during Thanksgiving, so we talk about that constantly. And your advice is always like, "What if? What if?" And I'm like, "What if what?"
I always ask, what if you survive? What if this isn't your last year? What if this is? What if you don't get to celebrate the holiday the way you want to do? I do a lot of what ifs. I think that if we look at what's possible, and we actually, what I actually think is if we live in the moment, if we look at what is right now and we enjoy the what is, we're in much better shape than if we think about a year from now. And unfortunately, the holidays make us think about the future. And cancer really forces us to think about things we have no control over. And so this does make for more struggle with emotions. This does make, and on top of it, if I can swing back to what Richard said about anger, this is the time when everybody's walking around saying, and we should all feel joyful and grateful and happy. And in fact, many people are not joyful and grateful and happy. They're struggling to get through pain and discomfort and sadness and frustration and feelings that are not typical holiday feelings, which is why I started off with our feelings are going to be a wide variety. And none of them are wrong. Is that, I don't know if that's answering the question.
I know
Mark.
you can't see any squares, but go ahead. Go to the next one.
Go to the next one.
Sure.
Okay. I probably should also say the absence of people, that sometimes we lose people during the holiday season, and the absence adds to our stress. And I am hoping that so consider a problem-solving approach. Consider an in-the-moment problem-solving approach. If you don't have a mental health professional, maybe there is a pastor or a rabbi or a counselor in your faith community that you would feel comfortable talking with. Joining a group, one of these groups that the ALK community provides a lot of support as you enter into the holiday season. The other thing that I love is the idea of having 3 phone numbers of 3 people that you can call at any time. If you are feeling sad, low, stressed, depressed, to have 3 people that you know that you can count on to talk to. Maybe they're within the ALK community. Maybe they're outside of the ALK community. Maybe they are, maybe they are your family. But 3 people that you could call at any time is always a nice layered backup plan for managing and coping through the holidays. One of the things that I tell people is have an exit strategy. If you have to go to an event or a family gathering, have an exit strategy. Don't tell anybody this, Mark, but my coping strategy is I go like this to my husband, and he says, "It's getting really late. I think we need to head out now." And then I don't have to be the bad guy, and we leave.
Yeah, I mean, we all have cancer cards that are on this Zoom, but you don't want to say it out loud. You can always tell your spouse or anyone you came
Yeah.
with, you know, that what time, a deadline.
It's time to go. Some things that might also be approaches to coping might be things like creating a memory box, make plans. I have a woman who is a cancer, actually, her spouse passed away and she was left by herself and felt unbelievably lonely. She was a caregiver. And she said, "What am I supposed to do with myself? How am I supposed to get through these holidays? I always had an escort. I always had somebody to do things with. How am I going to manage?" And I said to her, for every event that you have to go, call up one of your friends and make plans. If you want to go with somebody, and you don't have to be alone. Take your son, take your daughter, take your best friend. So if you are dealing with, I don't know how many people are on here that are survivors and how many are caregivers. Do we have any caregivers on this?
Sure we do. Oh, we have a couple people raising their hand.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So for the caregivers, if you are feeling like if your person isn't up to doing something, make plans with somebody to escort you. You don't have to do anything by yourself. Only participate in things that you find enjoyable, relaxing, restful. Is everybody aware of meditation apps? Do you all have access to meditation apps?
I would assume so. I did get a question that popped in when you were talking, and that is, we do have some single ALKs that do have cancer who also are single. So allow them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do any of them want us? Was there any? Unbelievably lonely is probably a significant feeling for a lot of people. So if you live alone, you are absolutely encouraged. Contact family and friends. Don't do things by yourself if you're not feeling like you want to be there with somebody. And have a special signal. Tug your ear. Play your cancer card. Say it's time for me to go now. Are there any people who are taking advantage of any resources through their employers?
Isn't what?
For some employers, there are programs, employee assistance programs, EAPs that offer sessions for mental health. And usually it comes to about 5 or 6 sessions free of charge take advantage of those, especially through the holidays.
And that's through their their companies. Is there a certain amount of companies that have them, size of companies, or?
A lot of larger companies do offer employee assistance programs, and those employee assistance programs offer 5 to 6 sessions of mental health coverage free of charge per issue.
And also, how I got to Karen was through my hospital. So, hospitals offer social workers and et cetera, correct?
So this list that I'm about to share with you, 24 simple ways to take care of yourself over the holidays. This is a list that I've compiled over time that really is not just for cancer patients. I think that this is valuable for just about anyone. But I'm going to share all 24 of these options with you. And the first one is something that I do on the regular. Number 1 is to have a morning routine. I usually take 5 minutes to center myself. I have a cup of coffee, I meditate, I have a journal that I write in. Sometimes I'll take a walk, but most of the time it starts with 5 minutes of meditation with a cup of coffee. Take some time to create a morning routine that nourishes you. In this season, as it gets dark earlier and earlier, candlelight. Light a candle and allow yourself to sit quietly in candlelight. Candlelight doesn't just have to be romantic. Mark, I see that there's some more people.
Oh, sorry. I'm moving at the wheel. See here. Oh. Yeah. Oh, question. Would we be able to have your slide deck?
Absolutely. Please
Okay.
share this.
And then we'll post it with the recording.
Please.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go outside and take a walk. This is not about burning calories or tracking your steps. It's about taking a moment, and in my backyard, it's looking at the deer, but it might be just noticing the change in the color of the leaves, or it might be noticing the frost or noticing the first snow. Take some time and notice the magic. I love number 4. This is something that I talk about regularly, especially with people who are on a fixed income. And that is, you don't have to spend and splurge and like overspend through the holidays. Figure out what your budget is and set it, and don't go outside of it.
And that also includes making memories.
Yeah, make memories.
Right. It does include money to make memories. You don't have to take a cruise. Rick Mayer. You can go anywhere you want to go.
You can set a log in the fire and cuddle up on the couch and be cozy together. And that's just as significant and special as being on a cruise together.
Sure.
When you do buy gifts, opt out of being on mailing lists. Mailing lists are cluttering your email and makes more work. And why do you want more work during the holidays? Try and be clutter free. 1 in, 1 out is a general rule that a lot of people apply. This is for gifts, for clothing, for events, for decorations. We'll put 1 in and throw 1 out. Number 7, being unconventional. The idea of being unconventional when it comes to self-care is really kind of a unique way to think about how to take care of yourself. In years past, I've talked about physical, intellectual, social, creative, emotional, and spiritual self-care. A self-care practice does not have to be a bubble bath and a massage. That's nice, but it's not the only way to take care of yourself. Your way might be to turn off all of the screens, to throw away your scale, to go for a walk, to give up being right. Sometimes it's better to be in a relationship than be right. To embrace less, do less, schedule less, resist the urge to fill up time. Say no. Say no is so hard. Sometimes it is more difficult to say no than anything else that you'll come across. And when you are feeling like you don't know whether or not you can say no, my favorite word is, let me think about it. Let me think if that's going to work with my schedule. Let me think if that's going to work with my health. Let me think how I can do that. And I might not be able to. And I often say, and if the need to know is immediate, then the answer is no. If you need to know right now and you're not going to give me time to think about it, then the answer is no. When I talked about less, embracing less, decorating with only your favorite things, I think this year, I see more questions popping up, Mark.
Oh, it's just Ruby. I'm joking, Ruby.
What?
Ruby, you can unmute if you want. And Ruby is one of our roundtable therapists. So she's another professional like you. So,
Ruby, thank you. Yes.
yes, to what?
Yes, a lot of things apply to having a partner, but things like decorating with only your favorite things, that's a just you thing.
You say no to yourself too.
What?
With the saying no, it's like not feeling guilty after saying no. I think that's the hard part.
That is the hard part. And the no is to friends. The no is to plans. The no is to doing extra, going out more. You might not want to attend a certain event, or you might not want to host your friends for the holidays this year. I don't know what traditions are coming up. I had a recent client, one of my other clients said, I'm thinking about hosting a Friendsgiving. And I said, what? You're thinking about what? And they said, yeah, I was thinking about hosting a Friendsgiving so that I could have everybody together and we could have this memory of this quality time together. And I said, who's in charge of cleaning? Who's in charge of cooking? How are you going to do this? And over the course of the conversation, she said, maybe I need to rethink that.
She didn't ask you to be the friend to make everything.
She said, I'm going to have to ask my friends to make everything.
Which is
maybe I have to rethink that.
Yeah.
Under scheduling is really, really a hard thing to do. But if you under schedule, if you don't have so many planned activities, maybe it makes room for some things to unfold. Maybe it gives you some time to go and take a nap, to allow yourself the permission to rest. I think a lot of times we don't think it's okay to rest. I'm a huge fan of books. When we
join our
talked
book club, by the way.
What?
Should join our book club.
Yeah, join a book club.
We have a
Um,
book club. You can join if you want.
Oh, really? There's a book
Yeah.
club?
We have a
What are
book club.
we reading?
Dana, what are we reading this month?
This month will be the Midnight Library.
All right. And when are we meeting on that?
December 29th.
Perfect. So we have the whole month of December to read.
Yes.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. I am a fan of curling up with a good book.
But and for people who are thinking like, how do I balance the time? I have small kids. I'm already stretched with the holidays. I wish I could sit down and read. Audiobooks are your friend, especially if you got the ADHD from your TKIs. I'm just keeping it real, everybody. Grab some through the library or through Audible. Definitely audiobooks have been huge for me while I'm decorating or journaling or whatever.
Our library has Hoopla, and I have been downloading books like crazy and listening to them when I go walking. I feel like I'm doing double duty. I get my book reading in and I get my walk.
All right.
Mark, I'm seeing some more chat come up.
Yeah, I think they're between each other. So
Are they talking to each other?
I think they're talking to each other. But go ahead, let's finish this up and then we'll get the PowerPoint off.
Okay. So laugh, journal.
We talked about the laugh for 1 second.
Yes.
You and I have this dark gallows humor going on between the two of us. So do you find that in many of your patients or
I
just
do.
our
I think
relationship?
I think our relationship goes very, very dark, very, very quickly. We laugh about some very, very dark things. But I think that if you can't laugh about those dark things, and I do laugh, I do have gallows humor. I think working as a therapist for 30 years, there are things that I think are funny that probably the general population wouldn't laugh at. But I sit in a room with people who have seen things that are difficult and can laugh at those things. And the answer is yes. A lot of cancer patients have gallows humor. And I think that's important to embrace. And hopefully you have somebody else in your life besides me who goes to those dark humor
Most
places.
of my friends do show up on our group therapy and they understand my humor.
I
So,
love some dark humor.
Yeah.
So I say write in a journal, but as an art therapist, I'm also going to say draw. Collage. If you can't draw, collage. Choose pictures that represent your feelings. Write down about your stress. Tell your life story. Just as a joke, I said to my daughter, who is just starting to date, I want you to write down everything about each first date that you go on. Write the pros, write the cons, write the really good things, write the red flags, journal your dating experience. We'll write a book. And she laughed at me.
and she will never date ever again. So,
And well, she may or she may not. We'll see. That's what happens when you have a mother who's a therapist.
we also have a writing group that's closed right now with too many people, but for those who are writers, we will be opening that up shortly.
Is it possible to start a second writers group? Writing is so valuable.
I'm sure we'll get somebody to volunteer.
I'm really, really glad for that.
Yes.
This is so, I feel like I'm plugging all of the things that
We're maintaining our audience. Someone's dropping off the Zoom, so I find that to be pretty good. So
okay. Regift. Sometimes you'll have too many things in your house, a vase that you never use, a book that you love that you want to pass on to somebody. Sometimes the most meaningful gift is a gift that you are sharing that was something that was special to you that you can pass to somebody else. So as you look around your house and look at the things that you love or that you don't need anymore, think about those as a regift instead of having to shop for gifts. Get off of the screen, except for the groups. Go internet light, except for these groups. A lot of people's lives have been interrupted by things dinging and ringing and sitting around on a screen. During the holiday season, maybe this is the time that you really connect with the people around you, with your family, with your friends, with maybe some of the people who are in these groups, and maybe it isn't the dinging and ringing, but maybe it's being one-on-one in a Zoom room or in a Zoom interaction with somebody from across the country that you just care deeply about. So maybe taking the time to be connected in a way that is maybe non-traditional. Number 17 is a love list. A love list is just about things that you really, really love and value in the moment. What do you really love to do? What do you really love about the people around you? Who do you really love spending time with? What would a love list look like if you were to gift them a love list? Being grateful is a difficult thing sometimes, and it's an easy thing other times. I think, Mark, you and I talk a lot about gratitude and operating from a place of gratefulness. It is scientifically proven to make us healthier, more energetic, less stressed, less anxious, and allow us to get better sleep. Just as an aside, one of my journals is a gratitude journal, and I write in it on the regular. Making donations, giving, opening up your time and your energy to doing for others. Maybe the gift that you give isn't a gift of any financial, of anything financial, but maybe the gift is that you've picked something close to your heart. Maybe it's the ALK community. Maybe it is an organization where you can spend some time reading to children or driving for Meals on Wheels. I don't know what the give is, but it's, if there's something that's close to your heart, that may be something that you may want to do this holiday season. As always,
ALK-positive.org, the donate button. ALK-positive.org has a donate button.
ALK-positive Network has a donate button. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Right, I think Kirk's on this call, right, Kirk? Kirk says yes. Go ahead, sorry to interrupt. You're number 20.
No, wait. Somebody wanted the love list again?
Yeah, that's Darcy.
Darcy, I promise this whole thing will be available to you at the end of this. Mark is going to send it out.
That'd be Summer, but
Summer's going to send it out.
I sure will.
Creativity is a way that we care for ourselves. Creativity might be baking or cooking. It might be writing. I've been pushing Mark to write his life story for years. He still won't do it for me.
the pamphlet's coming out in the next 90 days.
All right, I love it. But be creative. There's no judgment. Maybe it is finger paints or watercolor paints or collages. But being expressive is always wonderful and allows for a moment of self-care and self-reflection. breathing, being in the moment, meditating, taking a breath. That's a critical way to take care of yourself, to take care of your wellness. Letting go of things that are no longer working for you. Being gentle with yourself, being gentle with what you want and what you don't want as you move through life, as you move through your illness, as you go through your scans. What are the things that are important? Maybe let go of the things that aren't so important. A full stop. Most people feel ridiculously guilty for giving themselves a day off. You might need a full stop. If you have children, maybe pick a day and call it a pajama day and have a full stop. Take a whole day to do absolutely nothing more than taking care of yourself in the moment. It is a crazy thing to think of, that we just stop and take a breath. In Judaism, we're supposed to do this every Shabbos. Turn everything off, take the time, be quiet, reflective, caring for ourselves. And I don't think as humans we do this near enough. And then lastly, be loving, be the love that you want to see in the world. Move forward in loving ways. I was shocked. I walked out of a store recently and I held the door open for a woman, and I said, "Oh, here, let me get that for you." And she said, "Oh my goodness, you have a blessed day." And I said, "You as well." And she said, "Thank you. I really need that. My husband just was diagnosed with cancer." You just never know what someone else is going through and how a simple act of kindness or a gesture, a loving gesture, is going to move someone else forward in the world. And in conclusion, know that there's no one size fits all approach. So while I've given you lots and lots of information and ways to cope, some of these might be helpful and some of these might not be helpful, because the challenges of your cancer diagnosis and your family and your life situation are unique to you. And your coping strategy needs to match your reality. So as you look through this, I often say I can offer 101 ideas and all of them will work for somebody, but only one of them might work for you. So please feel free to use only the ones that work for you.
We had a question that came in. Someone always says to you, you need to get out more. How would you respond to that?
I need to get out more.
No, someone asked the question, you need to get out more. How would you respond?
I don't need to do anything more. I need to do less.
That's what you would say in response?
Yes, I would say, thank you. Thank you. I don't need to do anything more. One of my self-care strategies this season is I'm embracing less.
Gotcha. You know, Karen and I didn't see each other for 2.5 years. We were Zooming all the time. We've embraced each other after 2.5 years. And I'm like, wow, you went great. What happened?
I did great.
Yeah, you went great. I do want to stop sharing your screen, and then we can see.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, Mark, and there was something else in here too. I just want to.
Yeah.
Ruby actually was saying that to the group, and she was saying, so how about when I do keep declining and saying no and setting boundaries, but she wants to stay actively involved in her friend's life. This is one for me, even without cancer too. I feel like I would say no a lot also, but then you still want to be invited. You still want to be somebody they reach out to. So do you have any suggestions for that?
I would say that, of course, you want to be included and invited. And so that's when you say, you know, thank you so much for the invitation. I really would love to spend some quality time with you. I am struggling right now with my cancer diagnosis, and so I don't want to be in a large crowd, or I don't want to be in a room with a lot of people, or I want to be able to spend some quality time, and I'm concerned that it won't be quality time if there's a lot of people around. How about if, and then offer an alternate plan? Something that works for you, that works with your schedule. I always call that a pivot. It's important to be able to take a pivot where something that you want to be included in isn't working for you for some reason. Maybe it's the time, maybe it's the drive, maybe it is the interaction. Pivot, offer a pivot that will keep you included in invitations without having to sacrifice your time, your energy,
Perfect.
etc.
So we have 53% of the people that don't have a mental health member in of their team, which I find to be sad, because there's so much a mental health professional can offer. And any thoughts of how they might go about finding one? I know insurance is a big problem, expensive.
So the easiest way to do it is to go onto your phone and Google Psychology Today, find a therapist. If you go to Psychology Today, find a therapist, search for a therapist who has cancer or health issues in their bio. And that's a fast, easy way to get somebody who's going to be able to take the shortcuts with you, who might know a little bit about health issues and how health issues impact your mental health.
And let me ask you a personal question. How did you get involved with cancer treatment?
Personally, so right around the time that I entered into this field, my grandfather died of leukemia. And then when I moved back to Michigan, my grandmother died of breast cancer. And then, Mark, I didn't think you were going to ask this. And then I was given an opportunity to work with Carmanos Cancer Center here in the Detroit metropolitan area. And I began working with cancer patients. And during that time, my best friend was diagnosed with breast cancer. One of my best friends was diagnosed with breast cancer. Another one was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and another was diagnosed with a blood disease. And so my engagement in the cancer community became about knee deep in the cancer community. And then as that was emerging, I started working with people who were caregivers, much like myself.
So this question, sorry. This question really has to do with the holidays, and that is, you know my background, obviously, and you know about ALK. And we talked about scanxiety, we talked about a bunch of things going through my journey. I just progressed, as you know, and other people know on the call. Is ALK any different than ALK cancer? Any different than your other cancers, or?
I think ALK is a little different. There's some uniquenesses to the ALK community that I think are not present in some of the other cancers. And we've talked about that with the men in the prostate group, the men in the men's group who have prostate cancer, who have cancer, but the way that they experience their cancer diagnosis is very, very different from the ALK community. So I would say, yes, the ALK community is unique. I think that the treatments available to patients in the ALK community are not as pervasive as maybe the breast cancer community. There's not as much overt research as there is in the breast cancer community. So it makes the experience of being an ALK patient a little bit different. Yes.
We talked about the duality of going a long time, maybe on a TKI, and just have that hope versus fear back and forth, So
Oh
you're
my goodness, a psycho-oncologist? Did you just see that, Mark?
you broke my question, but go ahead.
What?
The question is that came across the chat that I see a psycho-oncologist recommended by my oncologist. Is that what
That's
you're saying?
fantastic. That's what just distracted me. Yes, that's fantastic.
What's a psycho-oncologist?
A psycho-oncologist is a psychotherapist who specializes in oncology.
Oh, okay. Do you consider yourself a psycho-oncologist?
No, no, I think a psycho-oncologist is actually an MD. Could the person who voiced that
Last
confirm?
19.
Yes. Yes.
So I hope everyone
Less
followed that.
19. Less 19, is your psycho-oncologist a medical doctor? Who's probably a psychiatrist and an oncologist? Yes. So a psychiatrist and an oncologist, that would be somebody who could also prescribe medication, as well as fully deeply understand the process and the medications that you're being prescribed.
Does anyone want to be on the camera asking a question? You're gonna mute if you want, because this is being recorded. So, I forgot my question. What was my question? Oh, the duality between hope and fear, which I think is a lot of our groups. We pop into that question a lot because we are kind of in a state of ALK where we have some long-standing TKIs that go through years. We don't look like cancer patients, obviously. And sometimes you can close your eyes and get rid of that gremlin on your shoulder and be lulled into just working and putting your head down and going on with life until you fall off that cliff of what do I do? I progressed, plan B.
So I think that's a really, really interesting statement. I don't look like a cancer patient. Because I think that in our minds, cancer patients are the patients who look like they've been going through chemotherapy, right? Is that what we think of when we think of a cancer patient?
The answer is yes, but we do get chemotherapy at times, but we don't look like a chemo patient.
The chemo patients who look like they've lost their hair and they're a little more swollen because of the steroids and all of the things that. So, yeah, I think that's one of the other reasons that I think that ALK is unique, Mark.
Okay.
When you're sitting in the waiting room, nobody knows that you're being seen for anything specific to cancer.
Very true. They just think I had a stroke. Besides that, the interesting thing is when we first met each other, I debated in my head, like, do I really need to see somebody coming off the Hodgkin's? And when I saw lung cancer and I read the statistics and everything, and I'm like, I need somebody to talk to. But there really should be anyone being held back seeing somebody. There's no stigma about seeing a therapist.
I am a firm believer that anybody given any cancer diagnosis should be provided the opportunity to see a psychiatrist for medication and a therapist for talk therapy support through the entire journey, and to have the permission to walk through the journey with somebody who's going to be able to hold safely all of the fears, all of the anxieties, all of the things that we don't necessarily want to share with our family.
I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you giving us all the art therapy therapists that we've had in our group.
So
and
if you haven't met Veronique, let me just say She is an absolute gift. And she is amazing. She is a wonderful therapist. She's a wonderful intern. She's going to be a wonderful therapist. And I'm so delighted to have her as part of the Samaritan staff.
Yeah, she's great. Any last follow-up questions? Oh, Stephanie loves Veronique too. So, Summer, Dana, what do we have coming up this week? And we'll pass it to Summer with our next announcement. Is Dana with us?
This week we have the Explore with Writing with your contact. You have to try and contact Tracy Cushing to if you're interested in that. Tuesday we have a mindset reset. Wednesday we have ALK chat and then guided meditation, and Thursday we have art therapy.
And for those that don't have a calendar, don't know how to access one, you can go onto ALK-positive.org under ALK Talk, and you'll see a calendar of events. And then I'll pass over to Summer. Summer, who's coming up next Sunday?
Thank you, Mark and Dana. Next Sunday, we have Dr. Ross Camage joining us. Actually, and to kick off next Sunday evening, we have Colin Barton coming on to give us an update on the ALK Life study. So if you have registered, or if you you'll hear what to do next. If you haven't, he'll give you some background into that and help get you started, explain what it is. So he'll be on, and then we'll have Dr. Ross Camage coming and joining us. It will be like a fireside chat meets Ask the Expert. So bring your questions, bring a beverage, cozy up. And you'll get to be empowered and get some hope. So it will be a nice evening. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And Dr.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Karen. Everyone take care. We'll
Thank
see
you
you
guys
next
all
week.
for having me this evening.
Oh, thank you for
thanks
coming.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Schurgin.
you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you all. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Take
Thank
care.
You so
you.
much.
Thank you.
very
Next
much.
Sunday.
Thank you, Mark. Mm.
Bye.
And definitely, Mark and Summer and Dana, please go ahead and feel free to share that PowerPoint.
Will do. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
Have a great night, you guys.
Thanks, you too.